Yeah, good morning, everyone. Welcome to your Hatha class. My name is Alesha, and I'm here to guide you through your practice. But as I always know that you can change things up if you need to and adjust the posture if it doesn't feel right for you in that moment. I'll invite you to come down into constructive rest. And if you haven't had your props ready, you might like a block, a foam, and possibly a belt. Just kind of handy. And if you're laying down in constructive rest with your feet on the mat, wider than hips and knees bent, knees will drift inward towards each other. And you might notice that there's some space behind the head, or the neck feels like it's falling back. So if that's the case, you might prefer to put a little foam or a pillow under your head. And your arms could be out by your sides, palms up, or perhaps you feel more comfortable with your hands on your belly. And I'll give you a moment to settle in here. So start to notice just the ground beneath you. And sink into that support. If you like, for a few moments, you might choose to soften your gaze or close your eyes. And then start to notice your natural breath. So there's nothing you have to do with the breath right now, but just let your awareness go to your breath. And sometimes the breath is funny. It's like a wild animal. As soon as you pay attention to it, it changes or runs away or disappears or hides or shifts. And then see if you could notice a little bit of an expansion, a feeling of expansion throughout your chest, your belly, your back as you breathe in. And notice the softness and drawing in as you breathe out. And sometimes the breath will have to extend just a little bit longer to notice that fullness on the breath in. And notice the softness on the breath out. And see if you could follow just 3 more breaths like that. And then 1 more breath. Let it go out. Now, when you're ready, you can start to bring more awareness back to your physical body. So you might just connect with your fingers or your toes and move them around a little bit. If your feet were wide, you can change the feet, elbow hips distance. And if you like, you could even start to clasp your hands in front of your heart and reach your arms up overhead for a big stretch. If you like, you could even stretch your legs out long. And then stay here for a couple of breaths. Reaching from fingertips to toes. And then when you're ready, you can bring your hands down. From here, bend your knees once again, land your feet down. And I'll invite you to come into a windshield wiper. So your knees might drift to your right side and then to your left side. And just go to a place that feels nice on your hips, your low back. You might even match your breath to your movement. So one way could be a breath in and one way a breath out. Now, if you feel quite happy here with the legs, stay with the legs. Or if you like, you could add arms by reaching your hands towards the ceiling and clasping opposite elbows. And then with your forearms above your chest, send your elbows in the opposite direction of your knees. And your gaze might follow your arms. Still breathing. And just go to your own pace. Just one more each way. Once you're even on both sides, return to center. And then from here, I'll invite you to hug your right knee in towards your chest for half wind relieving posture. You might choose to clasp around your right knee or behind the knee if that puts a lot of pressure on the knee. And you might choose to stay here with your left leg long or bent. And then see if you could stay for 3 more breaths right here. You might even start to wake up all 10 toes and pull them in towards the kneecaps. Last breath. And a full breath out. And then this time I'll invite you to come into a hamstring stretch. So you might choose to hold behind your right knee and extend your right foot towards the ceiling. Or you might take a belt around your right foot, around the toe mound. And because it's early, you might have a generous bend in your knee. That's okay. Or if you feel like there's a lot of sensation behind the right leg with the foot up towards the ceiling, you could try bending and straightening your right knee a few times, just kind of easing into the stretch. And sometimes I'll inhale on the expansion, the stretching, and then exhale on the contraction, just a few times. And then one more breath right here. Let it all go out. Now, if your left leg is out long, you can bend your knee, land your foot down, and then softly land your right foot down. Belt can go off to the side for a moment, and then come into half wind relieving posture, second side. So left knee hugs in towards chest. And again, you could choose to hold behind the knee or around the knee. You can choose to keep your right sole foot down or extend your leg out long. And toes might start to wake up. See if you could settle in here for 3 breaths. So your legs are fairly active, but your shoulders stay soft. Let the breath move. One more long inhale. And a full steady breath out. Now this time you can choose. You can start to kick your left sole of foot up towards the ceiling. Perhaps there's a generous bend in that left knee. And maybe you take a belt around your left foot so that you have a little more reach. Now you could stay here in a static stretch, or sometimes it's nice just to get a little movement. So you can start to bend and straighten your knee a few times and ease into the stretch. Maybe you inhale on the expansion and the reach and exhale on softening of the knee. Just a couple more breaths right here. And then one last breath. Full empty out. And then when you're ready to release, you can rebend your right knee, foot lands. Let your left foot land, belt could go out to the side. And then from here, either windshield wiper the knees or hug both knees in towards your chest. And if you have both knees in, sometimes it's nice to rock a little from side to side. Just waking up through the lower body. And we'll start to add upper body. From here, you can make your way over onto your left side in a fetal posture. And if you have the foam there, feel free to keep the foam under your bottom ear. This time, arms reach out horizontally and palms stack. So you have the flex in the hips and bend in the knees. And we'll do an open book twist. So on your next inhale, reach your top arm up, right arm reaches and open out to the side to like a capital T or a goddess arm if you don't happen to have a lot of space. On your next exhale, bring everything back until your palms touch. So we'll do that a few times. Inhale, open the pages of your book. Exhale, close the pages. And then one more time, reach out wide, breath in. Exhale, palms touch. Now, if that feels okay, stay there. Or this time you could choose to reach your top hand overhead like a rainbow arch and glide your fingers perhaps towards the floor or on the floor. Then open out to a capital T. Shoulder could go down towards the floor. And as you exhale, draw the fingers all the way back like a rainbow and the palms touch. So try that again. Inhale, reach up overhead, open out wide. Your hips might move, that's okay. And then as you exhale, swoop all the way back. And then one more time. Inhale, reach out wide. Exhale, come on back. And then from here, you can roll onto your back and then go to the other side. I'll just flip around. And get settled on this side. So arms reach out horizontally, hips are stacked to start, and knees are bent. You could have a little something under your head. Inhale, reach your left arm up to the ceiling, then open it wide. Exhale, bring everything back. And your gaze could follow your arm here. Inhale, open the book, open through the chest, and exhale, close the book. One more time. Inhale, reach. And exhale, return. Now you could stick with this, or maybe this time you reach your top arm up overhead like a rainbow, making a big swoop and then opening out wide to a capital T. Exhale, go all the way back. Again, inhale, reach up, open out wide through the chest, and then exhale, come on back. Do that one last time. Inhale. And exhale. From here, you can use your top hand, press down into the floor this time, and make your way up to a tabletop posture. You can just get there however you get there. It doesn't have to be fancy. And sometimes it's not. You might choose to put something under your knees. So you might take that foam, put it under your knees. Your hands could be on the floor or fists if the wrists are feeling a little tender. And on your next inhale, come into cow. Let your hips tilt up, lower your belly down, reach your chest forward. Then as you exhale, curl everything under, round your spine for cat. Inhale, belly sways, widen through the collarbones. And exhale, round through the spine. Another inhale. And exhale, curl. Come back to table. Keep the neck long, hands and knees are steady. We'll come into bird dog. So kick your right foot back. Your toes could land on the floor or hover. Reaching through the heel, but keep your hips level. Now you could stay here, or perhaps you reach your opposite hand forward. Stay for another breath in. And as you exhale, pull your knee towards your nose or elbow, curling under like cat. Inhale to extend, maybe reach. Exhale, round. One more time. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, curl. Knee lands, hand lands, tabletop. This time, switch sides. Get strong in your foundation. Left leg goes back, toes could land or hover straight behind you. Hips are stable, opposite arm could reach. Stay for another breath in. And then on your next exhale, knee to nose or elbow, belly strong. Inhale, kick, reach through your back heel. And exhale to round. Last time, inhale, lengthen. Exhale, curl. Tabletop, land down. This time, your choice. You could come into puppy with your forearms down and your head could land down. And your hips might stay high. Or you could come into child's where you start to send your hips a little closer back towards your heels. Now, if you feel like there's a lot of space between your forehead and the floor, feel free to fill in that space with a block or a foam. And then see if you could settle in here for 3 more breaths. And notice where the breath moves throughout the shape and throughout your body. Stay with your next breath in. And then watch the breath go out. This time as you inhale, lengthen through your arms, reach to the side, waist, and then walk your hands, torso, and head towards the right side. So we're coming into a side bend, whether you're in puppy or in child's. And sometimes here the head will kind of float off before, so you can fill in that space if your head's off the ground. And see if you could stay here for a couple more breaths. One more long breath in. Full breath out. This time, walk yourself back towards center and then find a similar stretch on the second side. And go to a place where you can notice some space between your hip and your shoulder. Your neck can stay soft and you can breathe. Just a couple more breaths right here. One more long breath in. Full breath out. This time, bring yourself back to center. Press into your palms, rise up to table. And your choice, you could do a few rounds of cat-cow, or maybe walk your hands a step forward, tuck your toes under, and press up into downward facing dog. And here you might bend and straighten your knees a few times again if you're still feeling the hamstrings. Keep all the knuckles pressing down into the floor so you have that strong connection. And then keep reaching the hips up and back. So it's almost like your body is in an upside down triangle. The hips are lifting and floor is pressing away. See if you could stay here for one more breath. And a long empty out. This time, bend your knees, look forward, make your way up towards the front of the mat. You could step. And then as you inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, fold, and come into ragdoll. So you could hang out here, or maybe you bring your forearms to your thighs like a football huddle with your knees bent. And that sometimes will give you a little more support for your back. If your back is lower than the hips, perhaps you let your arms dangle down, or even hands clasp opposite elbows. And then see if you could stay here for 3 more breaths. If you notice your neck wants to kind of hang on here, or it feels tense, you could shake your head gently from side to side. And then 1 more breath. Let it go out. This time, press down into your feet. Inhale, halfway lift. And stay for the exhale. Inhale, extended mountain, reach all the way up. Exhale, mountain, hands lower down by the sides. All right. So we'll wake up through the shoulders a little bit, just because sometimes they're a little sticky in the morning. So we'll reach the right shoulder up and then back and down. So do shoulder loops just singularly, one at a time, and then left shoulder up, back and down. And perhaps you add breath. So inhale to rise, exhale, soften, inhale, left shoulder up, exhale, soften back and down. And then maybe start to rotate the torso a little bit to the right when you move the right shoulder, and then rotate the torso a little bit to your left and move the left shoulder. And maybe you keep the knees soft so you can allow the hips to twist a little bit. So maybe not so strict with the lower body. And you might even start to move your gaze in the direction that you're moving your torso and your shoulder. And I'm hearing some clicking and popping and stuff in my shoulders, so you might hear that too. And it's kind of just like that morning crackle of like fascia and connective tissue and all that good stuff. Still breathing. Now, if this feels pretty good right here, you can stick with that. Or maybe this time when you go to reach your right arm up, you reach it forward and then swoop it back like in a big circle. So it's kind of like what we did on the floor, but now we're standing. Good. And the left arm reaches forward up and then twist a little bit to that side. So it's almost like a backstroke. We'll do that just a couple more times. Inhale and exhale. Breath in. Breath out. One more to the right. And one more to your left. Awesome. You can shake it out a little bit. This time we'll come into tree. So we'll find some balancing. Press into your right foot. Opposite knee bends. Bring the knee out to the side. You could have a little kickstand with your left toes down. Maybe bring your foot a little higher onto your calf or even up onto your thigh. Sometimes it's nice to be by a wall. Hand could be on a wall. Your hands could be low. Or perhaps they reach up. You get to choose here. Go to a place where you'd like to stay for 3 more breaths. So keeping your gaze focused on something that doesn't move while the breath continues. Last breath in. Full breath out. Now if your hands are up, you can bring them down. Left knee goes forward. Both feet plant. And you can shake it out a little bit if you like. This time we'll change sides. So press down into your left foot, opposite knee bends, and then turn the knee out to the side. Choose your stance. So it could be low, it could be medium, or it could be high. Once you feel steady in the legs, choose your arms. Perhaps you reach up or bring a hand to the wall. Settle in for 3 more breaths. Last breath in. And let it go out. Bring everything on down. Eventually it will come down anyway, so you don't have to worry about that, I guess. You can shake it out. So we'll go through a classical sun A and we'll add a hamstring stretch. So it's a little bit of a variation. On your next inhale, come into extended mountain, reach up. Exhale, hinge at your hips and fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, hands plant, left leg goes back, low lunge. Your knee could be on a foam if you like, and maybe you even bring a block out in front of you for monkey. So I like to have this block in the center of the mat. It's not totally necessary, but it gives you a little bit of space for the torso. And then from here, you can start to wiggle your front foot a little more forward. And you might even do that bend and straighten if you're still feeling some sensation on the back of the thigh on the right leg when you start to straighten the knee. So you can bend and straighten a couple times. And then once you find a spot that feels like a nice stretch where you can breathe, we'll stay here for 5 breaths. So you might stay fairly upright with your torso and just focus on the hamstring stretch. So you might have a little bend in the knee. If you feel like there's some space there in the calf and hamstrings, then maybe you start to straighten the knee a little bit. If you feel ready, perhaps you fold a little farther forward with your torso, so your hands might come down towards the floor. Just a couple more breaths wherever you are. And one last breath. Long, empty. When you're ready, inhale, rise up. If you're folded forward, get steady in your hands. Slide your right foot back. Give yourself time if you need it for that low lunge. This time, hands plant down. Your choice of flow. So you could do cat-cow, or maybe you step back into your plank or half plank. So knees could be down. As you exhale, bend your elbows lower down towards the floor. Inhale, cobra or cow. Exhale, down dog or perhaps child's posture. So go to a place where you can maintain your breath for 5 cycles of breath. That might mean that you come into puppy or child's, or that might mean that you press into your hands super strong and lift your hips up and back. So you look like a triangle. There might be a soft bend of the knees here still. But keep the connection to the floor, stability. Just 2 more breaths. 1 more long breath in. Full steady breath out. This time, bend your knees, look forward, gradually make your way up towards the front of your mat. You can step, you can hop if you like. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, hinge your hips, fold forward. Inhale, extended mountain, feet press, arms rise. Exhale, mountain, hands lower down. We'll do the second side. So inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, hinge your hips, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, hands plant. This time, right leg goes back. A foam could go under your right knee, low lunge. You might bring that block around here to the center of the mat. Or if you have 2 blocks, you could bring one either side of your front foot. Now, you can start to wiggle your left foot a little farther forward. And we'll do that little shift forward with the hips and then shift back, starting to straighten the knee a little bit. Just a few times shifting back and forth and breathing, of course. And then once you found a nice stretch where you can breathe, you feel some sensation in the back of the left leg, start to pull your left toes up. And you might have a little bend in your knee here, that's okay. Now you might stay fairly tall and long with the torso, that's totally fine. Or if you like, you can bring your hands down towards the floor or lower the level of your block and fold a little bit over your front leg. Go to a place where you're in a breathable stretch, a stretch that feels kind and generous. Remaining here for just a couple more breaths. One more breath in. Full exhale. Ground down into your foundation, press into your hands. Inhale, lift up halfway if you were folded forward. And then slide your left leg back until you're in that low lunge. Perhaps you move your block off to the side, table or plank. Make your way back. You might need to move stuff out of the way. That's fine. And then on your next exhale, lower down towards the floor with control. Inhale, cobra, lifting the chest away from the ground. Exhale, press into your hands, child's or down dog. So you have that option to sit back, or maybe you press the floor away and lift hips up. Wherever you are, connect with your next 5 breaths. Notice the ground. Notice just this moment. Let the breath be smooth. Last full breath in. And then let it all go out. From here, you can bend your knees, look forward, gradually make your way up towards the front of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, extended mountain, reach up. Exhale, mountain, hands lower down. Shake it out a little if you like. All right, so come into standing hand to knee. Press into your right foot. You might be by a wall again if you're using a wall today. Bend your left knee and see if you could bring it up in line with your hip. So the hip flexors are working here. Your left hand could be to your left knee, and maybe your right arm reaches up, or maybe it's on a wall. So we'll ground down into the standing foot. Get tall to the top of the head. We will stay for 3, Last breath in. And then as you exhale, you can bring it on down, both feet plant. And we'll make our way to the second side. So left foot grounds down, right knee bends, hike up the knee. Awesome. Right hand could go to knee. Left arm could rise or go to a wall. See if you could stay for 3 breaths. Shaking is okay. Awesome, last breath. And then when you're ready, bring everything down. Both feet plant, you can shake it out. I gotta work on my hip flexor, so maybe we'll do that later. Okay, find your chair. So I know this is everyone's favorite. You can bring your feet either narrow or hips distance, send your hips back and down. Your hands could be to your knees, or maybe you reach your arms forward or up. So it's like you're sitting back into a chair, but there's no chair there. It's just imaginary. And your legs are doing all the work. See if you could stay for another breath in. And a long empty out. Now, first, actually have your block handy. So if it's really far away, just bring it up. Yeah. Okay. Then press into your right foot and step your left leg back for warrior one. So it might be a few steps. It could be a giant step back. So your feet are wide like railroad tracks. Your front knee bends. And if you notice your front knee dips into center, see if you could guide it a little bit towards the pinky toe side of the foot. Your hips don't necessarily have to be square. They might be a little bit open on the back leg, like a 45-degree angle. But see if you could face your chest and belly forward. Settle it into the shape and see if you could stay here for just a couple more breaths. Legs are super strong, but keep your gaze soft. Last breath. And a full empty. Now, when you're ready, your hands could come down. We'll come into a humble warrior variation. So you might choose to clasp your hands behind your back. You might use a belt between your hands, or you might clasp your hands to opposite elbows behind your back. See if you could find a little puff of the chest forward and up as you breathe in. And this time, hips go a little more square towards the front. Hinge over your front leg. So you might be halfway up. That's totally okay. You might even be a quarter of the way down. If you feel ready, you might even bring your right shoulder towards your right knee or in the inner knee or somewhere along the lines. Still keeping the connection to your back foot. Outer foot presses down on the left. Whole front foot presses down. Just another breath right here. Full empty. Now this time you can start to let go of the bind. Inhale, rise up. This time straighten your front leg. You might shorten your stance an inch or so, so back foot could wiggle in and front of the hips point forward. You can bring your block to the center of your mat if you're choosing to use a block, or if you have two, you could bring one on either side of your front foot. So we'll come into pyramid. Same thing, a little puff of the chest, hands could start on hips. Exhale, flex at the hips and fold forward. You could have a little bend in your front knee if you're noticing a lot of stretch in the back of the thigh or calf. Perhaps your hands come down to a block. If you like, your hands could go down to the floor and head might soften down like ragdoll. And if you know a bind and it really makes you happy, feel free to come into some sort of bind with maybe your hands behind your knee or hand on big toe. Now keep the connection with the legs. So even though you're stretching a little bit, see if you can really ground down through the feet. Notice some length throughout the spine. Just a couple more breaths wherever you are. Last breath in. Full empty out. Now, if you're really far forward, ground down into your feet, inhale, halfway lift, hands might come up onto the block or onto your hips. And then inhale, right, just for extra noise, just a little beep, just so you know. Enjoy, have a great day. Yeah. So we'll just reach the arms up, inhale. And then as you exhale, come into your low lunge. So you might move some blocks out of the way or in the way if your hands want to come down to it. Back heel rises, back knee lands. Make your way back into your table or your plank. So you can scoot that leg back. And then go through a little flow if you like, or cat-cow. Lower down towards the floor. Inhale, cobra or cow. Exhale, press back into down dog, or maybe you come into cat. And go to a place where you like to stay for 5 breaths. So that could be cat-cow, or maybe that's child's. Go to a place where you can just connect to your body, connect to your breath. Doesn't have to look fancy. And then one more long breath in. Full steady breath out. Gradually make your way up towards the front. So you can bend your knees, gaze forward, step or hop up. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to fold. Inhale, extended mountain, rise on up. Exhale, mountain, hands lower down. Find chair again. So send your hips back and down. If you moved your block out of the way, you might like it up here again in the front. Choose your arms. Just a couple breaths here. Keep along through the spine. You might even have a little curve in your low back. Belly is awake. Last breath in. And then as you exhale, press into your left foot, warrior 1 second side, opposite foot steps back. Could be a giant step or a few steps, that's okay. Settle in, feet hips distance wide, and your legs could be as long as one leg's distance apart. Front knee bends, arms could reach up. And then see if you could stay here for 3 more breaths. So keeping the connection to the legs super strong. Still reaching the arms up on the breath in. And grounding down through the feet on the breath out. Last breath. Full empty. And we'll come into humble warrior. So your hands could, again, have a belt between them. You might clasp your hands on your low back, or you might clasp your hands to opposite elbows. Now hips go a little more forward this time. If they were askew, puff of the chest, breath in, exhale, hinge forward. Again, you can stay halfway or a quarter of the way down. It's still a lot of work for the legs. Maybe even some work for the back. If you have the bind, your knuckles might reach straight back or your elbows. Maybe you start to hinge a little farther forward, but still keep connected to the back leg. Just a couple more breaths. One more long breath in. And a full steady breath out. This time, both feet press down. Inhale, rise up. Let go of the bind or the belt. And front leg starts to straighten. You could wiggle your back foot in about an inch or 2. Both hips are really forward. Block could come into the center of the mat on any level. And we'll come into pyramid. So hinge at your hips. Start to bow forward with a tall spine. And go to an appropriate level where you feel stretched, but you can still breathe in the front leg. Maybe that means you bend your front knee. And you still have your back foot grounding down. If you notice that your hips swing out to the left side, see if you could hug your left hip back a little and your right hip forward a little bit. Now you might stay halfway the whole time, or perhaps you start to fold forward or take a bind for a few breaths. A couple more breaths right here. One more long inhale. Full breath out. Now, when you're ready to rise, inhale halfway up so your hands could go to your hips. Stay for the exhale. Inhale, rise all the way up. Maybe your arms reach just for a breath in. Exhale, hinge forward, runner's lunge. Back heel rises, hands to floor or blocks, and right knee could land. Find your plank or your table. This time, exhale, lower, go all the way down towards the floor to stay, and your legs could go long behind you. You might turn your head to one side, or perhaps you stack up your hands or forearms under your forehead and let your head be centered. While you're here, see if you could notice your foundation. So you might feel the shoelace part of your foot on the ground. You might notice your thighs. If you notice there's a lot of space between the front of your hips, perhaps you start to pull your belly button in and up a little on your exhale, and that might fill in that foundation, that space there. Now, once you feel the foundation, see if you could bring your hands by your sides. We'll get set up for locust. So palms could be on the ground. Wake up through the legs. So kneecaps lift as your shoelace part of your foot presses down. And then on your next inhale, lift your head, your shoulders up off the floor. Maybe some ribs lift up, your chest. Just a couple more breaths. So reaching through the toes, reaching through the fingers, and top of the head reaches forward. Last breath in right here. And then as you exhale, float on down. Your head could turn the other way, or maybe you choose to support your head here like you did before with your hands. And sometimes a little shake of the hips can be nice from side to side. And we'll get set up for another round, but know that you can choose. You can stay exactly in that first variation, or maybe you explore other variations. So head goes back to center if it's turned. Legs start to wake up. Ground down through your hips. Inhale, lift your head to your shoulders. Your hands might float up this time, maybe. And then see if you could stay here for a couple more breaths. So waking up through the back body. Last breath in. And as you exhale, come on down. Everything softens. Your gaze might turn. Maybe a little shake of the hips. Now you could stay with one or two, or maybe you go into a third variation. So arms go down by the sides again if they were forward. Wake up through the legs. Inhale, lift your head, your shoulders. Maybe your hands come up. Maybe your feet float up off the ground. So it's like you're a locust flying through the air. Top of the head reaches forward, not the chin. And then see if you could stay here for one more breath. As you exhale, come on down. Soften everything into the ground. Shake the hips, a couple breaths. Now, if you like the yoga mudra bind from earlier, you might choose to bring your hands clasped on your low back this time, or you might bring a belt between your hands. And I'll invite you to come into locust. Inhale, lift your head, your shoulders. Perhaps you add the arms, perhaps you reach back. Go to a place where you can stay for two more breaths. Full back body's awake. Last breath. And as you exhale, come on down. Hands go out in front and stack up. Forehead lands down on the hands. Bend your knees, feet to sky, and then swish your feet to your right and to your left. So just relaxing through the low back a little bit. You can match your breath to your movement. So one way could be a breath in, one way could be a breath out. And then one more each way. When you're even on both sides, feet land down, hands go under your shoulders, press up to your tabletop. We'll come into table rotations, so you can ground down either into your left hand or fist and bring your right hand behind your head so it faces out towards the right, like a little wing. Keep your hips steady, and as you inhale, twist just your chest and torso to your right, and as you exhale, come on back to the starting point. So do that again. Inhale, twist, and then exhale back. Last one. Inhale, rotate, open. Exhale back. Now this time you get to choose. Maybe you reach your right arm out. Inhale, reach out or up. Exhale, thread the needle. Scoop your right arm under, opposite arm. Right ear comes down towards the floor. Just a bit of a shoulder stretch. Sometimes the neck can feel funny here, so if it does, you could put a little foam under your head, or perhaps even shift the hips back a little bit. Option to stay exactly as you are. Maybe you kick your left foot out to the side and toes land down. You might even tuck your left hand behind the low back, but you don't have to. Staying here for about 3 more breaths. Now, sometimes I find it puts a little too much pressure on my shoulder. If you have the bind, you could come out. Last breath. And a full empty. Start to unwind. Left hand plants under the shoulder. Left knee comes down. Tabletop, rise up. We'll switch sides. So right hand grounds down. Opposite hand goes behind the head. Make a little wing out to the side. And as you inhale, chest opens. Exhale, chest faces towards the floor. And we'll do that again. Inhale, and just letting the shoulder glide along with you, following the torso. One more time, inhale left, and exhale back. Now you could stick with that, or maybe you reach your left arm out, or even start to go up as you inhale. Exhale, thread the needle, scoop your left arm under, opposite arm. Left ear goes down towards the floor, or perhaps a prop, like a foam or a pillow. And all those other options still apply. So if you like kicking your right foot out to the side, you could do that. If you find the broken wing bind enjoyable, you can tuck your right hand behind the low back with palm out. Settle into a shape where I'd like to be for just a couple more breaths. One more long breath in. And a full breath out. If your right hand's behind you, bring it around. Right hand under right shoulder. Slide your right leg back in. Everything lands. Come up to your tabletop. And this time, swing around down onto your back. If you like the props handy, bring them along with you. Perhaps you add a little support under your head. So we'll work the hip flexors and abdominals here and come into dead bug. So your head comes down to the floor or a prop, knees bend, feet can land down to start, and just notice your foundation. So you might feel the back of your pelvis down, your upper back on the ground, but you might feel a little soft lift in the low back, just that natural curve. So it's almost like you could slide like a piece of paper under there. And see if you can maintain that curve the whole time and keep the pelvis steady. So we'll flex the hips, shins to sky, toes awake, pull in towards your knees here. And your arms could reach up towards the ceiling, but your shoulder blades are soft and on the ground. Palms face each other. And here you might start to feel some work along the front of the thighs and into your belly. And if you feel that, you might choose to stay here the entire time. Or perhaps you add some movement. So you can kick out your right foot a little bit. It could be about 45 degrees. Start to straighten the knee and reach your opposite hand overhead about 45 degrees or so. And then as you exhale, bring everything in. Inhale, left leg, opposite arm reaches. And exhale, bring it in. Inhale, kick, reach, switch sides. Exhale, back in. Inhale, kick, reach, switch sides. And exhale, bring it in. We'll go for a couple more. Breathing, coordinating your breath with your movement. Now, if this is going well, you can stay here. Maybe go a little faster. I'll go for 5, maintaining the low back and that little lift. 4, 3, whoops, you might knock stuff over. 2, last one. Ha. Okay, hug everything in, knees towards chest, give yourself a squeeze. Perhaps you rock side to side or draw circles with the knees on the ceiling. And then you can go the other way, whatever direction you haven't gone. And sometimes after all that, a little twist can be nice. So you can land your feet down on your mat and arms could go out a little wider. So like a capital T or a goddess arm if you don't happen to have that space, and send both knees to your right. Now, you could just send them straight out, or if you like to do a little cross with your left knee on top and then out to the side, feel free to do that. Sometimes the floor feels far away here, so you could add support under your knees to the right side. Your gaze could be up or to your left. See if you could settle in for 5 breaths. And then one more long breath in right here. Let the breath empty out. Bring your gaze back to center. Guide your legs back up. And then you can switch sides. Knees go to your left, or if you had the cross the knees, uncross. Right leg goes over, then legs go to your side. Option to add a prop here under your knees or turn your gaze to your right. Settling in for 5 breaths. And one last breath in. Let it all go out. Guide your head back, guide your legs back. And then from here, you could come to one final posture, something that you feel you might need, or a movement, or perhaps you just get ready for your Shavasana. So you might add some socks on, or if you're at home and the lights are bright, you can start to dim them down. I'll close the blinds and everything in the studio, so I'll get that set up. Make sure that you're comfortable, supported, and warm. As warm as you can be. I know it's a little chilly today. So that might mean you put on socks or a sweater or a blanket. Or like if you're at home, sometimes like the dog will lay on you or something, a cat. Okay. Now, sometimes it's nice to put a little support behind the knees. So if you have couple of blocks handy, perhaps you add those in, or supporting the head. If laying on your back doesn't feel right, of course you could go on your side, but go to a place that feels restful. Here you might choose to soften your gaze or close your eyes. And see if you can let all the work of the muscles let go and everything be soft and supported by the earth. I'll give you a few minutes of quiet just so you can integrate your morning and your practice so far. And when those few minutes are over, I'll call you out of this shape. Begin to notice where your attention was placed. And then softly guide your attention back to your body, back to this breath. And if you like, you can start to bring some movement to your physical body. So your fingers or your toes might move, your wrists or ankles, and then gradually adding bigger movements, bigger joints. If your legs are out long, you can start to bend your knees and then make your way over to one of your sides in your own time. Eventually, you can use your top hand to press down into the floor and guide your way up towards a comfortable seat. Hands might go to the center of your heart space here. Thanks for being here. I bow in honor of you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, namaste. Namaste. Thanks, everybody online. Good to see you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.